Hello, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0. So what we see in front of us is a living answer. Well, it's not really living. Whatever. It's an answer to a question that I'm sure many of you guys have been asking yourself since the September ban list came out, which is, can RJ's predictions be wrong? And thankfully, this particular one turned out totally wrong. At the beginning of the format, I said that Chainbeat was dead because we lost Macro, Bottomless, Torrential, and Solemn Judgment, and of course Compulsory. So I figured we wouldn't really see any chain beat this format, but we did, however, in Ecuador, see a top 5 place for a Garden Beat deck, and I wanted to show you guys that. I'm sure you guys have seen it through Vexicus's channel, but I'd like to put my own input in it, since Chain Beat is one of my favorite decks ever. So keep in mind, all of these things that I'm going to talk about are just purely my opinion, and clearly these choices worked for this guy because, you know, he got 5th place at the Ecuador Regional. So, you know, I'm not ragging on his choices, but I'm just going to be expressing a wee bit of opinion in here. So why don't we just go down the deck list and talk about some of the choices. First, we have Thunder King Ryo. Makes sense. Really good card. Especially with as much protection as you have. You can protect him from those monsters like the Dragon Rulers that are going to try and run him over so they can make their Xyz monsters. And you can just like Mirror Force them, or Bottomless them, or Compulse them, all these fun things. Anyway, so Thunder King Ryo is a really great choice. I'm not so sure about the Double Bear. Since you only have 2 tanky now, it seems unlikely that you're going to, you know, run out of targets for it. Or even likely to be searching both of the bears out. So it feels like one of them would be dead, but once again, clearly this worked for him. We then have the 3 Wind-Up Rabbit and 3 Thunderbird. That tends to be pretty staple. Although a lot of the previous Garden Beat builds only used 2 Thunderbird, which kind of makes sense because Thunderbird can get a wee bit cloggy. However, I forgot what I was going to say about it. So let's move on to Fossil Dyna. Fossil Dyna is a great card, especially under Black Garden. It takes a monster with 2400 original attack in order to get over it, which, you know, is unlikely considering the fact that it's Fossil Dyna, so your opponent can't really special summon. And if you really want to, you can set him, clear the field a little bit, and put in some serious work. But this guy, under Black Garden, is a serious powerhouse. Then we've got the Double Tour Guide, which I've never actually been a fan of Tour Guide and Garden Beat, but once again, it appeared to work for this guy. He can go for that Muser rhythm and be able to you know, make his attack double and do a lot of damage. I thought I was going to say something about that, and then I definitely didn't. It's kind of helpful against dragons because you can, you know, keep them from using, you know, via tempo, you can keep them from using the Dragosax effect again. It's good against evil swarms, I suppose, which should be a pretty decent matchup for this deck. Like I said, I personally don't like using Tour Guide because I feel like it's kind of unnecessary. But yeah, like I said, it seemed to work out for him just fine. Then we've got the 3 Black Garden, the MVP of the deck. Most important card. He did not seem to put any searches in there, which I kind of understand considering the fact that Black Garden, you know, doesn't really isn't totally necessary to the plays. So you've got things like Ryo and you've got Fossil Dyna, and if you can protect those, then you don't really need the Black Garden, but it's a freaking amazing card. You got Dark Hole 1D Fissure, which replaces the Lost Macro, which I think makes sense, and I'm not sure why I didn't try that out before, and it probably had to do with the fact that I was convinced that the deck was dead because of the loss of the traps, but we'll move on. Double Tanky, of course. You've got triple Forbidden Lance, those damage step tricks. And the thing you can do with this is if you want to put a Kaiku on the board, or a Banisher of the Radiance, or a Thunder King, when they're summoned and Black Garden activates, you can ask your opponent if they have a response, and then you can chain the Forbidden Lance, and then they get to keep their full attack. So that's really helpful. And it also just protects from the numerous trap cards in the game. It allows you to go for some more damage step tricks, stuff like that. And then you've got MST, protects from the Imperial Iron Walls that frickin' everybody is using now. I mean, except for dragons, and of course Skill Drain, which absolutely everybody is using in the top tier. And then you've got your triple duality because you never really special summon in this deck. And then you have one Black Horn of Heaven to replace a Solemn Judgment. It's a pretty decent choice, especially since we don't have heavy. We don't have to worry about Heavy Storm anymore. We don't really need the spell and trap negation that Solemn Judgment could give. And Black Horn of Heaven deals with the other thing that Solemn Judgment deals with. Then we've got Bottomless, of course, then double compulsory escape device. I personally, since we only have one compulsory now, or one evac device, would go for 3 escape device, even though, it doesn't have much synergy with like Bear or Ryo or Fossil Dyna. It does have synergy with Black Garden, and it does replace one of the lost compulsories, but, once again, this worked for him. Then, of course, Macro. Memory of an Adversary is a card I've never really liked, particularly in a deck like Chain Beat, where you aren't going to have much use for that monster once you take it. I'd rather keep myself from losing those life points and get rid of the monster than just kind of steal it from them. So like a D-Prison would be more effective against a Dragon deck, for instance, because you could just remove the problem permanently instead of just kind of sticking it on your side of the field and giving your opponent fodder for a dragon later. But, once again, worked for him. Then we've got 2 Mirror Forces, which makes sense, seeing as we've lost a lot of the removal we used to have. 1 Torrential, of course. Double Vanity's Emptiness, which is great for this deck, since it's very rare that you have a card go to the graveyard. And then you've got 1 Solemn Warning. The 41 cards I don't really like, but I've talked about things that I would personally cut. And, I'm going to be messing around with this deck. Then we've got the 3 Banisher the Radiance, which seems like a great choice when we are lacking in Macrocosmos. And once again, you've got enough protection, or you've got enough removal to protect him. You've got the 3rd Fossil Dyna. That's a lot of Fossil Dyna. I don't think I have ever seen that much Dyna in one deck. But it really works for this deck. And then you've got the double Kaiku, which is good against spellbooks, and it's good against dragons. And you can put it under Black Garden and have it be really big. And then you've got Mataion, once again, a card that I don't really like that much, but he does have the 1 Grand Mole in here, so it kind of makes sense that he'd have the extra mass field clearing ability. And then Necro Valley is really good against things like Dragoonity and Inzektor. And it also works pretty well against dragons, although, your macros should pretty much cover that. But it does fill the role of Imperial Iron Wall that this deck can't run, which I thought was an amazing choice, and I never thought about it before, except through that one guy who is the Nostradamus of today's video, who said that he wanted to make a Necro Valley Chain Beat deck because, which I think I actually did a workshop on, because he thought that it would be really good against dragons this format, and what do you know, we've got this guy running 3 Necro Valley in the side deck, once again, because it fills the place of Imperial Iron Wall, which this deck can't run for obvious reasons. And then we've got 1 Prohibition, which is just generally a good side deck. You can keep your opponent from using any 1 card. And then you use 1 Soul Drain, which is, once again, pretty helpful since you don't really use your graveyard at all. And then the double Starlight, which really helps against Blackwings, and can also protect you from Black Rose, which is pretty much the only other thing besides Heavy that can really deal this deck damage. So yeah, this deck is really exciting for me because it means that Chain Beat is back. I will be messing around with it, and it might mean that I have to bring my playing Chain Beat videos back. Once again, Chain Beat isn't as good as it used to be, but it does still have a ton of amazing plays, and this just proves that Garden Beat is the superior build. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys like this video, and I hope you guys are excited to bring back Chain Beat as I am. And if you guys do want to see more Chain Beat videos from me, since my big hiatus at the beginning of the September format, definitely hit that thumbs up button and let me know in the comments. Meanwhile, thank you guys for watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button if you didn't, let me know why, and then hit that subscribe button for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos. Thank you guys for watching. I'm your host, the RJB0, and I gotta jet. See you guys.